Forge! I am still a hard man. I am your host, Imperator of Forge, otherwise known as Forge Warhammer. I am the leader of Forge Gang. I am still a very hard man. I am very much a hard man. And this one was a long time in coming, because it's going to be about Charlie Kirk, the moderate right-wing guy. Was he really a moderate? Or was he a very controversial figure, as the left proclaims? Again, this one I had to take some time to really think about, because there's a lot here to say about it. There's a lot here to really say in regards to this one. Charlie Kirk is a pretty hard can of fish, or is a hard kettle of fish to really decipher. There's a lot of opinions, a lot of folding opinions on the establishment. The powers that are in charge right now are using his assassination as a martyrdom. They've kind of turned him into a Jesus Christ-like figure. They're very upset about it, or they pretend to be, as they crack down on free speech. They crack down on American rights and all of that. But anyways, I'm going to talk about Charlie Kirk. We'll talk a bit about Dylan Robinson. Dylan Robinson, not too much about him, since he's the assassin, or the so-called assassin. We'll talk about the potential ploys and the potential involvement of the CIA and Mossad. The potential role of Mossad and the CIA. Oh, fuck! In regards to this matter. Anyways, we'll talk about the role of the CIA, possible role of the CIA, some of the ploys that was done, why his assassination happened, the place, the setting, all that stuff. We'll cover that. But anyways, I am Imperator Forge. I am a real hard man. A truly hard man. And we're going to talk about Charlie Kirk. Who exactly was this guy? Who was Charlie Kirk? What was his thing? Blah, blah, blah. So, I will now extrapolate my opinion. I guess I will extrapolate my opinion I personally don't really know that much, or until relatively recently did not know much about Charlie Kirk. Who he was, what he was about, all that stuff. I did listen to him. I did listen to some of his speeches. What he said about black people, transgender people, and so forth. Gays and minorities and his thoughts. And he sounds like a typical garden variety Republican. He sounds like a typical garden variety Republican guy. So anyways, Charlie Kirk, I mixed Charlie Kirk up for Stephen Crocker. Stephen Crocker was the guy that would do the open panel debates with transgenders and the like. And I actually mixed him up with that guy, but no, they're two different people. So I don't know. I know very little about Charlie Kirk, who the guy is, what he does. Apparently, he started his own political organization in 2012. Obviously, he was MAGA, Trump supporter. He tries to present himself as this would-be political commentator of a right perspective, but he tries to pretend to be moderate. I don't think that he was really that moderate. And let me get something straight. He did call for political violence. Charlie Kirk did actively call for political violence against the left. That is true. And he did contribute to making the America that got him killed. Because he put his face out there. He put himself out there. He threw himself out there in the open, in the public. And he talked about very hot topics, very controversial topics. And you should know that when you try to go to a mixed crowd like that, there's going to be people with mental illnesses. There's going to be a lot of people that have mental illnesses that have really nothing much in life, nothing at all to gain, everything to lose, that are not going to like that message that you speak. When you put yourself out there, you turn your entire persona, your entire public persona, and your entire thing about you, and you put it into politics, it can always have a very negative backlash. America has really changed a lot since what it was before 9/11. Before 9/11, politics was very moderate. You could have a lot of Republicans that could sound almost like Democrats, and you could have a lot of Democrats that could sound almost like Republicans. But 9/11 just turned all of that upside down and threw everything out the window. And the Trump and Obama eras radicalized this nation. It's like every succeeding period from that time onwards, things just got further polarized and radicalized. So Charlie Kirk was a moderate right-wing political analyst, and he did not like high-functioning autistics. He did not like high-functioning autistics. He tended to have a low opinion about them. Charlie Kirk never said anything like substantially negative, but you can obviously tell that he did not have a very strong opinion about high-functioning autists, saying that from the 1990s it went from 1 out of 30,000 to be diagnosed to about 1 in 20 in the 2020s, or about 1 in 15 in the 2020s. And I could just tell that he didn't really care that much about high-functioning autists. It's the same thing. These guys think that it's vaccines that cause autism. Stupid shit like that. Conspiracy theories like that. He didn't have a high opinion about transgenders. Transgenders are gay people. About the same opinion as Jordan Peterson. And he did claim that blacks are more likely to commit crimes and stuff, so I'm not taking his side. I don't like this guy. I don't care about him. I would have never gone to one of his open panels, and I would have never even bothered to have a discussion with him. There's this trend that from the 1970s, IQ for the right has substantially dropped. And I do believe that that is true. I do think that the right, as well as some on the left, have a substantially lower IQ compared to 5 decades ago. The last 50 years, IQ, especially on the right, has dropped substantially. And you can see it by the kind of points that they make, by the logistics that they call for, and just the politics they identify with. They're conservative because they don't have a very high grasp of how things work. Their lack of understanding, or their lack of a PhD in really understanding the rhetoric that they spew, shows a very dropped margin of IQ. And it would make sense that a lot of Christians, and I'm not saying that all Christians are like this, but it would make sense that Christians are going to be like that, or that you will have Christians that will be conservative and on the right and lower IQ, and that you would have atheists on the left and be progressive and have a higher IQ. And I understand that. I definitely do understand that. Absolutely none of Charlie Kirk's points or the rhetoric that he made was being done by a very smart individual. Very much average blue pill normie IQ. Complete lack of understanding of internet culture, internet lore. A complete lack of understanding about Reddit and 4chan and the politics on Reddit, 4chan, Blue Skies, and Twitter. Definitely a very much a run-of-the-mill Republican, conservative, Christian, Anglo-Protestant. Very much a Anglo-American Protestant, typical Anglo-American Protestant rhetoric. I get it. Not impressed. I'm not impressed anyways by it. I'm definitely not really interested in that kind of low IQ takes. That kind of blue pill takes that he had. But still, did he deserve to be killed like that? Did he deserve to be shot in the head for voicing his stupid opinions? No. He did put his face out there. He did put himself out there, obviously. And he did voice his right-wing opinions. I don't think he deserved to be shot. Especially on camera in front of children. Now, he did call for violence against African Americans. he said that African Americans are more likely to be violent. So he did say that minorities are more prone to violence and gang culture than whites, and he did call and advocate for violence. So it does make sense that these mentally ill leftists answered that and did what he was calling for. And he is himself responsible for creating the America that is so radicalized and so, radicalized and politically driven into these positions. He did help to create that kind of America, and it backfired on him in a very terrible way. I would never advocate or call for acts of terrorism, but this man was not innocent. He did not deserve to be shot, but he was not innocent of the political rhetoric that he was calling for as a MAGA. He was pro-Israel, anti-Palestine, supported Israel in the Gaza war. So he was not a pacifist. He was not a pacifist or a pessimist by any margins, and he was definitely pushing an agenda, a very strong rhetorical agenda of a specific kind, very religious, evangelical, Anglo-American Protestant kind, variety. I don't think he deserved to have his life ended like that. And I don't think that he had to suffer like that. Again, he could have put up bulletproof glass. He could have worn a bulletproof vest. He could have done a lot of things to prevent that from happening. So he did go over his head and thought that he was untouchable. Like he was a mafia boss, some kind of a mafia don, and was untouchable. So that was another mistake he made. Now, Dylan Robinson is a Latter-day Saint from the state of Utah. They went to college and they adopted kind of this transgender identity, transgender persona, and might have read something about socialism. This person had a mental illness or mental illnesses. They identified, or at least at one point identified as trans, and they, I think, were a vegan, and they were definitely far left. And they wrote many times on their Twitter that they did not like Charlie Kirk, and so they planned in advance for what they were going to do, and they, it was a red flag, and they shot Charlie Kirk, and it's terrible. It is an act of terrorism. There's no doubt about that, and I feel sorry for the family, but he did put his face out there, and he did say these controversial things, and Dylan Robinson's going to probably have the death penalty, or get the death penalty, and I don't think that, a person that's that mentally ill should have to suffer the death penalty, but it's up to the courts of Utah. I'm not an attorney, so it's not my calling. So anyways, you got these people on Blue Sky celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk. You have people who have been fired, they have lost their jobs because of them celebrating or allegedly making death threats about Charlie Kirk and people like that from the left. And these people are celebrating his death. They are celebrating, they are rejoicing about it. They're posting it all over their social media. Hassan Piker is a good example. I think he was actually banned on Twitch because of his calling for violence or calling for violent acts against capitalism. That's what I heard anyways. And then you have the other side, the establishment that is in power. Donald Trump saying that Charlie Kirk is a holy martyr, basically a crusader, a holy martyr for the cause. He's like Jesus, and they're holding up plaques of him. They're mourning his passing. They are mourning his death. People are horrified that this happened. They are shocked about it. People on the conservative right. So there is a lot of division. I really hate that I live in a country where there is so much polarization. And there has been for a long time. Again, I don't think that someone with a mental illness, a very severe mental illness, should have been able to shoot Charlie Kirk. But Charlie Kirk said things that were politically inciting. They were politically insightful, and at the end of the day, it is to be expected that that happened to him. And I'm not surprised that that happened. Now, there is some discussion that Mossad and the CIA and the deep state were involved in this assassination, and then they tried to cover it up. There is a post on Twitter, I think, that was taken down that said, I'm not going to name names, but I heard that if Charlie Kirk, who is pro-Israel, starts to become anti-Israel, they're going to take him out. And this was posted on Twitter about a week before the assassination. So, was the Mossad and the CIA involved in Charlie Kirk's assassination? Was there a deep cover-up by the deep state and a hidden agenda by the Freemasons and the Mossad to do this? I can't really say with clairvoyance. Obviously, I can't make absolute clairvoyance about it. But I would say that yes, there was some involvement by Mossad and the CIA in this assassination. It happened very randomly and very fast and seemed to be very well planned. Alright, so those are my thoughts. Anyways, Romina Zabala says hello. Hello, Romina Zabala says hello. Hello, Zabala, how are you? Lydia Augustin says, HAI. Informed says, man, your ceiling is falling apart. Thank you. Like that has anything to do with what I'm talking about here. Code of Truth says, Forge! Code of Truth says, we need order, comrade. Somebody wants to play Stalker. Somebody wants to play Stalker, comrade. Alright, so in hindsight, I think that there is a deep state cover-up, and there is involvement by the state of Israel in this assassination. I think that there is some advanced intelligence networks that were behind this, and I feel sorry for the family. You know, it's a shame what happened. The family, it's horrible when kids have to see something like that. They have to see someone die from a gunshot, and that there was actually children that saw that saw blood spew out of his neck like a goat or a cow being slaughtered, and that children had to witness that, and his kids had to, go through all of that drama. So, I give my condolences, and I feel bad for the kids and the wife and stuff, but I don't really give a shit for Charlie Kirk. The guy said that he did not have a high opinion of high-functioning autistics. Said many times that high-functioning autistics were basically just stupid. Irrational, illogical beings that really just basically need to be institutionalized or something. So I'm not going to look at him as a martyr. I'll tell you that much. Alright, so those were my thoughts about the Charlie Kirk assassination. I think there was a deep state involvement with the CIA and Mossad. Alright, I'm Imperator of Forge. Thank you for watching. I'm done.